Imagine a world where the surface is deadly, society is trapped underground, and the truth is hidden beneath layers of lies. This is the world of Wool, a gripping dystopian novel that will keep you on the edge of your seat. Written by Hugh Howey, Wool is the first book in the Silo series, a story of survival, secrets, and rebellion in an underground society where questioning the rules can cost you everything. In this video, we'll break down Wool chapter by chapter, giving you a complete summary of the book. Whether you're revisiting the story or discovering it for the first time, this is your chance to experience its twists and turns in a condensed form. Let's dive into Chapter 1. Chapter 1. Sheriff Holston ascends the bunker's worn spiral staircase, a path to his death, while children's laughter echoes from above. He reflects on the countless lives and years that have eroded the metal, each step a reminder of the bunker's oppressive embrace. As he nears the top, the children's joyous shouts grow louder, a stark contrast to his solemn mission. He recalls his childhood within the bunker, once a vast and unexplored world, now a confined reality. At the cafeteria level, he sees children playing, a painful reminder of the family he and his late wife Allison longed for. He remembers their desperate attempts to conceive, clinging to superstitions, but their dream remained unfulfilled. Holston ignores the scene and heads to his office, passing the wall displaying the outside world where he imagines his wife's body lying. He takes the key to the airlock and locks himself in. Handing the key to his deputy, Marn, he utters his final words, "Call the mayor. Tell her I want to go out." Chapter 2. Sheriff Holston spends his last day in the bunker, gazing at the bleak, coffee-colored landscape displayed on a wall-sized screen, a distorted view of the world outside. He reflects on his wife, Allison, and the choices that led him to this prison cell. The screen, filled with dead pixels like tiny windows to a brighter reality, mirrors the dying world. Mayor John's visits, revealing she used to find solace in the view. Holston grapples with the absurdity of the rules, his impending death, and the mystery of why everyone sent outside cleans the lenses. Tomorrow I will find salvation, Holston thinks, questioning if he will clean the lenses or not, a decision that seems meaningless in the face of his impending doom. Johns asks if he'll clean, and Holston shrugs, "Everyone cleans the lenses. There must be a reason, right?" Chapter 3. In the bunker, Sheriff Holston is swamped with paperwork when his wife, Allison, a tech expert, reveals a startling discovery. Recovered data suggests that uprisings occurred regularly, roughly every generation. Allison believes that the data on the servers was deliberately wiped, not by rebels, but by those in control, to prevent the cycle from continuing. She wonders if the information itself was the trigger for the rebellions. Holston is worried about her digging too deep, especially with the upcoming cleaning and the increasing tension within the bunker. "Don't you see any value in the truth?" Allison asks. "It's always good to know the truth, and better that we find it than someone else, right?" Chapter 4. Sheriff Holston prepares to go outside, a place where no one survives for long. Nelson, the head of the cleaning lab, meticulously outfits him in a protective suit, boasting of improved seals designed to prolong his life. Holston is haunted by the memory of his wife, Allison, undergoing the same process. He recalls watching her on the big screens, a painful ritual observed by few, as she diligently cleaned the cameras before venturing towards the horizon, eventually succumbing to the toxic environment. As Nelson continues dressing him, Holston reflects on the eerie compliance of those facing certain death, wondering if it stems from an inability to grasp their impending doom. After the suit is fully on, Nelson reviews the cleaning procedure and Holston assures him he's ready, noticing fear in Nelson's eyes, fear that his work will be in vain, or worse, that Holston will defy the established rules, refusing to clean and offer the people the only thing they can look forward to. Feeling strangely prepared, Holston remembers his wife seeming similarly resigned. Chapter 5. Holston rushes to his wife Allison, finding her restrained and repeating, "I want to go out." These words are a death sentence in their underground world. Allison, a technician, discovered erased data about life outside and programs creating fake images on the screen. Before being forced into the cleaning, Allison reveals to Holston that the uprising started from the doubt that things outside are not that bad, and that those exiled never come back because they don't want to. She believes she knows why they clean and assures Holston she'll return to get him, promising to break the cycle and go beyond the hill together, implying the world they see is not real. Chapter 6. For a year after his wife Allison's death, Sheriff Holston grappled with her claims about the outside world and the reality of her death. He considered leaving himself, poring over her files, feeling the world inside was a lie. On the anniversary of her death, Holston found himself in the cleaning suit, doubt mixing with hope. The heavy yellow door sealed behind him, a point of no return. As the argon filled the chamber, he stepped through the opening, into the world Allison had described. He found a vibrant, green world, unlike the gray, lifeless images shown inside. Overwhelmed, he remembered Allison's awkward movements during her own cleaning. He cleaned the cameras, understanding her actions. The view from inside was a lie, Allison had said, and now Holston knew it to be true. The colors, the life, all hidden. Holston finished cleaning, realizing he was now part of a group. He knew he'd go where his wife went. Chapter 7. Sheriff Holston, filled with hope at the sight of the outside world, is struck by agonizing pain after taking a few steps. He collapses, realizing the suit is poisoning him. Desperate, he manages to pry off his helmet with a rock, only to see a desolate, lifeless landscape, a stark contrast to the vibrant illusion he expected. The helmet's visor, a mere screen, showed him a lie. Dying, he clutches at the remains of his wife's suit, finally understanding the truth of their world. He dies next to the rock that was the remains of his wife. As he succumbs to the poison, Holston thinks about his last view of the world. What will the people that send convicts outside see when he dies? Chapter 8. Mayor Johns, an elderly woman living in an underground bunker, reflects on life and death while knitting, finding solace in the repetitive motions. The bunker's residents celebrate a recent cleaning, but Johns is preoccupied with the death of Sheriff Holston and the upcoming selection of his replacement. Assistant Sheriff Marn suggests Jules from the Mechanical Division, praising her intelligence and resourcefulness. Despite Marn's recommendation to call Jules, Johns decides to descend to the lower levels of the bunker to meet her. She wants to see her people, not to be viewed as a spectacle, feeling disconnected from the lower levels. She acknowledges the bunker has changed over the years and fears that her time is coming to an end, and is replaced with someone that can bring about change. Chapter 9. Mayor Johns and Marn descend the bunker's seemingly endless staircase, heading towards the lower levels. Their destination, the maternity ward on level 20, where they plan to interview Peter Nichols, father of a potential sheriff candidate, Jules. John seeks to understand why Jules, despite living in the lower levels, has never visited her father, a doctor at the maternity ward, in 20 years. As they venture deeper, the mayor reminisces about her past and feels guilty for the thought of someone carrying her burden. They finally meet Dr. Nichols, who reveals a tragic event in Jules's past, the loss of her brother due to a faulty incubator, and his wife's subsequent suicide. Jules blamed the incident and asked to be transferred to the mechanical levels, a decision that has kept her away from her father. Though he thinks Jules would be a great candidate for sheriff, Dr. Nichols doesn't think she will agree to the position. Intrigued, Johns wonders if Marn has a hidden agenda for his unlikely choice. Chapter 10. Mayor Johns and her assistant, Marn, descend into the lower levels of the bunker, encountering the grueling reality of its depths and the grueling labor of its inhabitants. Johns feels a pang of guilt seeing the burden the porters carry, especially a young girl hauling trash. Doubts creep in around the 30th floor as the initial excitement fades. They reach the IT department on the 34th floor, a place of restricted access and powerful servers, the supposed foundation of the bunker's superiority. Johns reflects on the IT department's unique position, fueled by the hope of one day returning to the outside world, a dream she finds both compelling and terrifying. At IT, they meet Bernard Holland, the head of the department, to discuss a candidate for a law enforcement position. A pre-signed agreement for their third candidate, Billings, is presented. The mayor is not happy about it and reminds Bernard that she appreciates all that IT does, but she will choose her own candidate. Bernard reluctantly agrees to refill their water flasks for their onward journey. Chapter 11. Mayor Johns, feeling the weight of her years and Bernard's growing influence, descends deep into the bunker with Marn to convince Juliet to become the new sheriff. Johns reflects on her long service, realizing the time for quiet compliance is over. As they pass through the hydroponic gardens, filled with the intoxicating scent of lush vegetation, they encounter a porter, a reminder of the bunker's unsung heroes. Marn reminisces about a past tomato theft case led by Holston, revealing the sheriff's intense dedication and the underlying tension before Allison's cleaning. Johns and Marn share dinner, then retire to their assigned rooms for the night. In Marn's room, the discussion turns to Holston's soul and the memory of John's late husband, Donald. Marn believes that the only thing he ever wanted was for Johns to be happy. Chapter 12. On the second day of their descent, Johns and Marn continue deeper into the bunker. Jans finds a sense of peace in the rhythmic descent, her physical discomfort fading. They bypass the 90th floor, famous for its farm escapee rabbit, and reach the 100th floor, a bustling marketplace. Jans enjoys the anonymity and feels rejuvenated. Marn notes they are ahead of schedule, planning to reach the 140th floor by evening. Jans wonders why they don't visit the lower levels more often. At the 140th floor, they seek out Juliet Nichols, a mechanical worker, to discuss a critical issue with the generator. They find her working tirelessly in a deafening generator room. Juliet explains the dire condition of the generator, highlighting a dangerous imbalance that could lead to a catastrophic failure. She bluntly tells Jans that unless drastic measures are taken, such as energy rationing, the entire system is at risk. Jans proposes energy holidays and suggests IT reduce their energy usage. Juliet agrees to meet with him after her shift to discuss further. Chapter 13. Mark, a mechanic, guides Mayor Jans and Deputy Marn to the mess hall. Marn, seemingly embarrassed by needing a guide, pretends to know the way, only to be corrected by Mark. Jans focuses on getting to know Mark, especially his connection to Juliet, sensing his genuine and confident nature. He shares that everyone down here is like family. At the mess hall, they discuss Juliet. Mark reveals Juliet's tenacity, recalling when she first arrived as a young apprentice. She was tasked with moving heavy motors, a task everyone expected her to fail. Mark and Shirley recount how Juliet cleverly tricked everyone by only moving one motor and learning to rewind them herself, surprising everyone with her resourcefulness and intelligence. The group highlights that if you assign Jules a task, she will complete it, even when odds are stacked against her. Be careful, because she will definitely get it done. Chapter 14. After dinner, Jans and Marn are shown to their quarters by Shirley and Mark. Juliet arrives, surprised they weren't assigned the same room, explaining the room is usually for newcomers and visiting families. Jans is trying to get Juliet to accept the sheriff position. Marn supports Jans in her attempt to recruit Juliet, pointing out her mechanical expertise translates well to understanding people. Juliet is reluctant, citing her responsibilities and the importance of her current role in maintaining the silo's life support systems. Jans counters that Juliet's perspective is needed to bridge the gap between the upper and lower levels of the silo. Jans confronts Juliet about her strained relationship with her father, suggesting unresolved issues are hindering her. Juliet reveals a theft of vital thermal tape by IT, and she will only take the sheriff position if Jans agrees to investigate and give her a week to fix a generator. Jans agrees, offering her the role and a chance to bridge the gap between silo levels, which Juliet accepts, shaking hands with Jans and Marn. Chapter 15. During an energy-saving period, Mayor Jans and her companion, Marn, began their climb back up the bunker's endless staircase. Jans felt her energy waning with each step, a stark contrast to the easier descent. Haunted by the ghosts of the past and disillusioned, she questioned her purpose in maintaining the bunker. The bunker's tiered society became clearer to her, the upper floors concerned with the external view, the middle content with gardens and livestock, and the lower depths consumed by machinery, where the outside world was merely a legend. On the 57th floor, they encountered a girl absorbed in a book, oblivious to their presence. They rested for the night in the sheriff's assistant's office. Jans struggled with her thoughts, reflecting on past feelings with Marn and the memory of her late husband, Donald. Her sense of duty now felt like a curse, a life drained for the bunker's sake. She realized her journey was, in part, an attempt to escape the memory of Holston and why people volunteer for cleaning, better to be a ghost than haunted by them. That night, Marn sought comfort with Jans, and they shared a moment of intimacy, finding solace in each other's company. The next day, nearing the IT department on the 34th floor, Jans hesitated, fearing a confrontation with Bernard in the end of their journey. They found Bernard waiting, displeased. He challenged her authority to appoint Juliet as sheriff, citing his server's power needs. Marn intervened, but Bernard remained defiant, refusing to sign the contract. Jans stood firm, and Bernard, with a final disdainful look, ordered his staff to fulfill her requests before dismissing them. Chapter 16. As Jans and Marn ascend towards home, she contemplates the changes the journey has wrought. She feels a newfound ambition and a deeper connection with Marn, realizing his sacrifices for her. Approaching the birth center, a sudden urge to use the restroom leads them to an unexpected encounter. Inside, Jans collapses, revealing a dire situation. Marn cries, and while the medics examine her, she confesses her lifelong love for him before realizing the water from his flask was poisoned, intended for him. Chapter 17. In a tense and eerily silent generator room, Juliet oversees the final adjustments to a massive generator undergoing unprecedented repairs. The fate of the community rests on her shoulders as she strives for perfect alignment, hoping her team's tireless work will pay off. After what seems like forever, the engine roars to life, a moment of triumph that washes over the crew, culminating in the celebration of successfully completed work. The relief is palpable, but the celebration is short-lived. A breathless messenger arrives with grave news, silencing the room and replacing joy with fear. Something terrible has happened, overshadowing their victory and plunging them into a new crisis. Chapter 18. Juliet, a mechanic from deep within the bunker, finds herself in a pressurized airlock, numbers emblazoned on her suit. The door behind her seals shut, leaving only a forbidden door ahead. Surrounded by brightly colored pipes and shimmering plastic curtains, she waits. The hiss of argon filling the space grows louder, a signal that the end is near. She reflects on how she, a simple mechanic content with a life of grease and tinkering, came to be in this perilous situation, facing the dead world outside. Chapter 19. Juliet, the new sheriff, sits in her cell, contemplating the desolate landscape displayed on the screen, a stark contrast to the underground bunker she now oversees. She pores over case files, including the unsolved death of the beloved Mayor Johns, and the disturbing case of her predecessor, Sheriff Holston, who chose to clean a death sentence. Bernard, the newly appointed mayor, confronts Juliet, hinting at his knowledge of the murder investigation. Juliet, armed with her newly pinned sheriff's badge, vows to uncover the truth behind Holston's decision and the circumstances surrounding Mayor Johns' death, feeling a newfound determination to protect the bunker from within. Chapter 20. After a long night, Sheriff Juliet finds herself alone in the cafe, drawn by a lingering scent of rabbit stew and a strange figure observing the night sky. This man, Lucas, reveals he's charting the stars, a hidden passion pursued in the shadows. He invites Juliet to witness a fleeting glimpse of a star through the clouds, opening her eyes to the world beyond their confines. The longer you do this, the better you see in the dark, Lucas says, sharing his unique perspective. Juliet, initially wary, finds herself intrigued by his dedication and the vastness he seeks to understand. As they part ways, a connection sparks, hinted at by a lingering handshake, leaving Juliet pondering the mysteries both within and beyond the walls of her duty. Chapter 21. Juliet starts her day early, fueled by only 4 hours of sleep, finding a package from Scotty, now working in the computer department. The package contains a flash drive with Holston's computer history from the past 5 years. Meanwhile, Marn is late for work, which is unusual, and when Juliet goes to check on him, she finds him dead by suicide. This marks the second dead body she has encountered in her life, and she wonders if it will be her last. Chapter 22. After dealing with the aftermath of Marn's death, Juliet returns to her office, feeling his absence more keenly than his presence. She grapples with guilt and loneliness, staring at the distant screen, hoping to catch a glimpse of stars. Pam brings her soup, revealing that Marn was cherished by the cafe staff. Later, Juliet begins researching Holston's files, seeking clues. Lucas joins her, and they share a silent companionship. They discuss Marn's funeral and his possible relationship with Jans. Juliet reveals she is 34, and the conversation drifts towards love and relationships within the bunker. Juliet, overwhelmed by loneliness and the memory of Marn's death, finds herself longing for contact, but only with a stranger like Lucas. As the night progresses, she feels a strange sense of comfort and protection in his presence, even as the computer signals the completion of her search through Holston's files. The bunker's secrets are about to be unveiled. Chapter 23. After Marn's funeral, Juliet, the new sheriff, grapples with the weight of her role and the secrets of the silo. The somber ceremony highlights the silo's cycle of life and death. Juliet finds herself investigating Holston's past, focusing on encrypted files he and his wife, Allison, hid on their home computer. She discovers Allison may have uncovered something dangerous on the old servers before her descent into madness and subsequent cleaning. A cryptic note from Marn before his death hints at a poisoned flask, suggesting a possible murder plot rather than an accident. As Juliet digs deeper, she receives a mysterious message from Scotty, her friend in IT, urging her to come immediately, setting the stage for further revelations. Chapter 24. Sheriff Juliet descends 34 floors to IT, encountering Lucas on the way. Reaching IT, she faces a defiant guard, using her authority to gain access. She confronts Scotty, a terrified technician, who reveals the program creates manipulated images on the outside screen. Holston's wife knew about this truth. Juliet realizes she is following a trail already blazed by others. Juliet promises to help Scotty transfer out of IT and is aware of the weight she carries, involving the young guy in this story. Chapter 25. Juliet arrives at work exhausted after a sleepless night, haunted by the fear that her investigation into the silo's secrets led to the deaths of 2 cleaners. She questions her assistant, Peter, about the silo's communication policies, suspecting that the high cost of digital messages is designed to isolate people. Peter dismisses her concerns, but then an emergency alert flashes on the screen, another suicide, this time in the very office Juliet had visited the previous night. As Juliet rushes to the scene, Peter receives a personal message and reluctantly arrests her. He cuffs her, stating he is only doing what he was told. She is now the suspect. As Juliet stares at her cuffed hands, she cannot get the image of Scotty hanging in his office out of her head. Chapter 26. Juliet is imprisoned, stripped of her sheriff title after Scott's apparent suicide. Bernard visits, hinting at her exile back to Mechanical, citing unauthorized access and IT interference. Juliet suspects a power play, confronting Peter. Despite feeling betrayed, her friends in Mechanical welcome her back. Finding solace in their support, she discovers a cryptic email from Scott, sent before his death, hinting at a conspiracy. Juliet realizes the bunker is falling apart and feels compelled to investigate, knowing it will require challenging powerful figures. Chapter 27. Early one morning, Juliet visits Walker in his workshop, finding him already at work soldering. After a warm greeting and an embrace filled with familiar metallic scent, Juliet confides in Walker about her doubts surrounding Scotty's death, a topic laden with grief for both. Walker reveals his guilt, feeling he pressured Scotty into accepting the IT job that ultimately led to his demise. Juliet shares a cryptic note from Scotty mentioning density and a joke about tape, leading them to suspect foul play. They discuss Scotty's final message, hinting at a dangerous discovery related to the code for creating images of the outside world. Juliet reveals the existence of a hidden area on a nearby hill, littered with the bodies of failed cleaners, suggesting a deliberate sabotage of their suits. They theorize about the possibility of 2 supply chains with different qualities of materials and parts with the goal to keep capable mechanics away from discovering the secret. With Walker's help, she begins to unravel a conspiracy far deeper and darker than she imagined, implicating those in power and threatening the very foundation of their world. Juliet says, "I think they are killing." Chapter 28. Juliet returns to work after her conversation with Walker, contemplating the recent deaths and suspecting the mayor's involvement. She envisions leading a rebellion against the corrupted bunker system, but questions the feasibility of her plan. Working in the pump room, she reflects on the lies they've been told about the bunker's origins and the outside world, suspecting IT's control. She realizes she needs to open everyone's eyes to the truth, using her skills of persuasion. However, her plans are interrupted when she is arrested by Hank for a serious crime against the bunker, with Knox looking on in distress. As she's led away, she accepts her fate to protect others, telling Knox, "It's okay. Let it be." Chapter 29. After a grueling 3-day ascent, Juliet, marked for cleaning, faces growing apathy. Her thoughts are consumed by past misfortunes and the futility of resistance. Confined to a familiar cell, she's visited by Lucas, a man she's starting to care for, who declares, "We are fighting for you." She urges him to let go, lamenting, "You don't even know me." He confesses his growing feelings, but Juliet pushes him away, wanting to shield him from her fate. "Don't become like me." Accused of conspiracy based on manipulated evidence, Juliet realizes the verdict is predetermined. Despite the accusations and her looming death, she feels strangely numb. Friends send supportive messages, but she is resigned to her fate. Walker's cryptic note puzzles her. On the day of her cleaning, Juliet resolves to defy the system. In the changing room she realizes the suit has been made to fail, yet decides she will not be a puppet. Juliet walks into the toxic wasteland, determined to see the world on her own terms. Chapter 30. Bernard watches Juliet's cleaning from the cafe, a ritual he usually performs alone, savoring the moment the cleaners react to the fabricated world outside. He's seen it all, desperate pleas to unseen families, attempts to catch illusory birds, and frantic banging on the door, all confirming the system's effectiveness. Mayor Johns can't stomach watching, but Bernard thrives on the illusion he and his predecessors perfected. He smiles, sipping juice as Juliet wanders the slope, but his calm shatters when Juliet defies expectations and ascends the hill without cleaning. Panic sets in as he races to IT, his domain of servers and data, where he confronts his fear. He locates a hidden headset, connecting to an unknown party. "First bunker?" "This is 18, he says, sweat dripping, his voice betraying the unraveling control he desperately seeks to maintain. Possibly, we have a little problem here." Chapter 31. Little Juliet embarked on what felt like an endless journey with her parents through the depths of their underground bunker. The long staircase, the echoing sounds, and the rhythmic swaying on her father's shoulders lulled her into a dreamy state. They finally reached the 100th floor, the depth where a bustling market awaited. Juliet, holding tight to her father's hand, was captivated by the sights and sounds. Later, they attended a play, preceded by mesmerizing jugglers who stole the show. Though the play itself lulled her to sleep, Juliet woke up to applause and a surprise, meeting the actress who shared her name. The actress, touched by Juliet's presence, gifted her a play script, signing it with a special message for Juliet of the bunker. Juliet, understanding the significance of the moment, finally grasped why her parents had brought her on this long journey. Chapter 32. Lucas is devastated after Juliet's departure following her failed cleaning. He contemplates skipping work, haunted by memories of her and the star map he drew for her, symbolizing her unexpected arrival in his life. Overwhelmed by the thought of Juliet outside, potentially suffering, he struggles with his own existence. He briefly considers suicide, gazing down the stairwell, but a glimmer of hope emerges when he notices a panicked carrier running upwards, hinting that something went wrong during the cleaning. He learns from Deputy Marsh that Juliet didn't clean but went over the hill. Marsh was tasked with delivering her things to the mechanical department. Lucas decides to carry Juliet's belongings, clinging to the hope that she is not dead. Chapter 33. Engineer Walker, a man in his 60s, is interrupted from his late-night repair work by Samson, a young porter eager to share news in exchange for chits, currency. Samson reveals that Juliet refused to take the cleaning and went over the hill. Walker is stunned, and, after some internal debate, decides to leave his workshop and venture into the corridor, feeling like an explorer stepping into the unknown. Chapter 34. Juliet Nichols is forced out of the silo through massive steel doors, facing a harsh, toxic world. The exit is a staged illusion of green hills and blue skies, a cruel trick meant to offer false hope. Despite the tempting mirage, Juliet knows it's a lie, a mere projection on her helmet's screen. She recalls Walker's words, "Don't be afraid," and the altered suit from Mechanical, which won't disintegrate like the standard IT-issued ones. Juliet throws away a cleaning wipe, acknowledging her mission is obsolete. She marches towards the horizon, where the illusion falters, revealing a desolate landscape. She aims to dive beyond the hills, unseen, seeking a destination more real than the fake city. Spotting other bunkers hidden in the landscape, and the decaying remains of other cleaners, she continues, determined to find a more private place to meet her fate. Chapter 35. In the quiet of the 38th floor, IT worker Lucas unlocks the pump control room. He seeks a server to hide by and a box containing the belongings of Juliet, a recently deceased former sheriff. Haunted by Juliet's fate, Lucas initially hesitates, fearing he would defile her memory by rummaging through her personal items. However, he decides to explore the contents to honor her memory. He finds old meal vouchers, a sheriff's badge with Juliet's photo, and a seemingly new multi-tool, which he impulsively swaps with his own. Finding a wooden box, he discovers a ring, a beautiful watch which he pockets. He also finds a document, Operator's Guide for the Main Generator Control Room, along with a copy of Romeo and Juliet. Overwhelmed, Lucas hides the items he pocketed and leaves, questioning his boldness in taking such risks. He has hidden the multi-tool, the watch, the ring, and badge with the photo of Juliet on it. He is filled with conflicting emotions while leaving the floor. Chapter 36. In a desolate, toxic landscape littered with corpses, Juliet stumbles upon a horrifying discovery: she's not alone. These aren't her bunker dwellers, but others who lived and died nearby, unknown to her. Determined to find answers, Juliet navigates the sea of bodies, climbing over the dead in search of a way into another bunker. She comes across a jammed doorway with a dead body stuck in the opening, but she pulls the body out. Fighting panic and exhaustion, she squeezes through the narrow opening, finding herself in another airlock filled with the charred remains of those who perished in the cleansing fires. Trapped, with the inner door sealed, Juliet uses a broken pipe as a lever to force the lock open. With a final push, the wheel turns and Juliet gains access to the bunker. She lives. The airlock is open. Chapter 37. Walker, a timid mechanic, overcomes his fear of open spaces to deliver startling news. He reveals that Jules, driven by her suspicions, secretly replaced parts in the suits with superior materials, disproving the IT department's lies about suit longevity and exposing their manipulative control. The revelation ignites a spark of rebellion among the workers, who are tired of being kept in the dark and treated unfairly, potentially leading to an uprising. Chapter 38. Lucas, breathless from both the stair climb and guilt, delivers Juliet's belongings to Bernard. He's worried he'll get caught with the items he secretly pocketed from her things. He finds Bernard furious, ranting about Juliet's actions and suspecting sabotage. How did that damn grease monkey cross the hill? Did she set something up herself? Or one of my technicians? Bernard abruptly offers Lucas an apprenticeship, shocking him. I need someone who already has access to the servers. Sammy's a good technician, I trust him, but he's almost my age. I need an apprentice, Lucas, and I want it to be you. Chapter 39. In a desperate bid for survival, Juliet squeezes through an airlock door, plunging into complete darkness. She seals the door, her air supply dwindling, and stumbles blindly through corridors, haunted by the memory of the horrors outside. I simply wanted to get away from the terrors of the outside world, she thinks. Tripping over bodies in a dark office, she crawls through the dead, driven by a primal urge to escape. She forces open a jammed door and collapses, gasping for air, realizing her time is running out. Faced with a choice between a slow death or succumbing to the toxic air, Juliet's curiosity sparks. She recalls Walker's words, for her, there is nothing more interesting than to look inside the toaster. She decides to explore, seeking answers. She finds a kitchen, but no water. In a desperate attempt to decontaminate, she douses herself in soup from a walk-in refrigerator. Covered in the liquid, she cuts open her helmet, gasping for breath. Though overwhelmed by the stench, she realizes she's still alive. She had been in this underground bunker for too long and the toxic air was the only thing that she had available. Chapter 40. Knox sees the unrest as another emergency, like a basement leak or a methane pocket. To prevent the worst, he needs order. He divides the tasks, focusing on supplies, the key. He plans a surprise raid on IT with Shirley, Mark, and Courtney, warning of IT surveillance. Jenkins is left in charge, stockpiling provisions and weapons, preparing for potential chaos. Courtney questions the bigger picture. Seizing power? Knox clarifies they already run the bunker, aiming to expose IT's secrets and their deadly lies. He reveals they knowingly send people to their deaths. The group makes their way to the supply department, facing scrutiny and suspicion. McLean, the head of supplies, confronts them, demanding answers. Knox apologizes for IT's actions, but then delivers a passionate speech, revealing the lies they've been living under, and igniting the possibility of a better future. He challenges the department to join them, sparking a tense moment of decision. He says, "We can no longer trust the IT people when they say that the cleaners are going to certain death." He declares that they didn't come to cause problems, but rather to create order. He declares, "We didn't come to cause problems. We came to create order." Chapter 41. Lucas follows Bernard through the IT corridors, technicians scattering like insects. Bernard, unfazed, leads Lucas to the server room, hinting at a new role for him, a successor in case something happens. Bernard trusts Lucas over Sims to manage the critical responsibilities. They enter the server room, where Bernard unveils a hidden passage behind a server rack, a secret entrance to the heart of the bunker. They descend into the darkness, Bernard locking the passage behind them. Bernard declares, "Soon you'll receive a grand gift," revealing a new, confident demeanor. He promises Lucas that the fate of the entire bunker depends on what he is about to show him. Lucas feels a mix of curiosity and fear, overwhelmed by the responsibility but compelled to follow into a room filled with objects that dwarf his star charts, a place where the scale of the world takes on new proportions. Chapter 42. After a harrowing escape from her own silo, Juliet finds herself in a mysterious, abandoned bunker. Shedding her contaminated suit, she navigates the eerie, green-lit stairwells, driven by a primal need to survive. Memories of her old life flood back as she recognizes the layout mirroring her home. This world is just like mine, she thinks, discovering the bunker's abandoned maternity ward on level 13. Driven by hunger, thirst, and the chilling cold, she fashions a makeshift dress from a conference room tablecloth, transforming herself from a naked fugitive into a resourceful survivor. Exhausted, she collapses on the 15th floor landing, clinging to the hope that the lower levels hold the resources she needs. Briefly, the thought crosses her mind that this will be the sleep she does not wake up from, and she will join the rest of the residents of this place. Chapter 43. In the depths of the bunker, Knox seeks the support of McLean, the head of parts production, for an uprising, but he prefers to call it restoring order. McLean, wise and experienced, agrees to help, reminding him that others likely feel the same about their actions. They discuss the logistics. The best time to move is when the lights dim at night, and they believe that those at the top, who see the lies, will be their allies. McLean plans a diversion, leading a team with lights under the guise of a supply mission, while Knox follows with the rest of the crew. McLean emphasizes they must move quickly through the middle floors without unnecessary violence, and head towards the IT department, led by Bernard. As they finalize their plans, a dog named Jackson approaches Knox, and McLean notes how animals understand people and are capable of being very loyal. McLean adds that animals are for the soul and they are a good judge of character. Chapter 44. Juliet descends into the bunker, driven by hunger and a powerful stench of rot emanating from the hydroponic farms. Reaching the 30th floor, she discovers the farms are dead, but she finds water in the pipes and drinks until she is full. She fashions a makeshift flask from a pipe section. On the next level, where the smell is overwhelming, Juliet finds regular farms. She hears the sound of pumps and finds tomatoes. While reaching for a tomato, the door slams shut behind her, plunging her into darkness. Startled by a touch, she screams and realizes it's just the turnstile. Leaving to find light, she discovers her knife and water flask are gone, and she hears footsteps approaching on the stairs below. Chapter 45. In the supply depot, Knox examines newly manufactured rifles and ammunition, realizing their lethal potential and the reason for their prohibition. He pockets some rounds, understanding how easily life can be taken. He and others receive grenades, a heavy cylinder requiring a hard strike to activate. Shirley expresses concern about carrying them. McLean, displaying calm defiance, takes charge, organizing groups to move out, concealing the weapons. Knox feels apprehensive about involving women, especially wives, in the impending violence. McLean's group departs. Before she goes, McLean challenges Knox, demanding he be at the front when the fighting starts and grenades fly, questioning his commitment to the cause. Chapter 46. Juliet, startled by retreating footsteps in the bunker, impulsively chases after the unseen figures down the seemingly endless stairwell. Despite shouting, her voice is drowned out by the echoes of her own frantic pursuit. She fears a life of solitude in the bunker, overshadowed only by the thought of encountering hostile survivors. On the 32nd floor, she hears the footsteps growing louder, spurring her onward. A door slams nearby, and she discovers it blocked with a broken mop handle. Bursting through, she finds herself in a brightly lit office, a stark contrast to the dim bunker. She's drawn to the IT floor by the chaos and the sight of active computer servers. Suddenly, a floor panel shifts. Juliet finds Solo, a long-term bunker resident, hiding beneath the floor. "No name, no need," he rasps. Solo cautiously asks about the outside, his eyes filled with a mix of fear and hope. Juliet tells him, it's not safe. He's surprised to learn she's from another bunker, not just another floor. He replies with tears in his eyes, "Nobody is safe, none of us." Chapter 47. Lucas and Bernard stand before a grand schematic depicting interconnected server-like circles, some marked with red crosses, representing their legacy. Bernard reveals a hidden room containing a massive book, the rules, detailing their history and emergency procedures. Lucas discovers the opening lines are from the Pact. Bernard explains the rest is the rules and gives Lucas a key. Leafing through the book he finds instructions on sabotage and ponders who wrote it. Bernard says people who have been through much unpleasantness. Lucas turns to Bernard asking about the morning's event. Bernard directs Lucas to page 72, where, under the heading Contingency, lies a chilling command. Chapter 48. After Juliet follows Solo through a hole into a hidden room on level 35, she finds his chaotic living space. Solo, starved for conversation after 34 years of isolation, reveals that he sometimes suspects other survivors exist, despite the occasional missing tomato being blamed on rats. He recounts his past as an IT apprentice who found this hidden bunker when people went crazy. He shows Juliet a book with photos of above-ground seed bunkers, which he claims represents their situation. They are the seeds stored away during bad times, but they have been left too long and are now rotting. "We are here become bad and rotten, so we will no longer grow," Solo reveals with a tearful gaze. Chapter 49. In the supply section, Knox anxiously awaits the signal to move. He hopes for a peaceful transfer of power, driven by the desire to get answers from the IT department and exonerate Jules. He notices Mark's worry for Shirley. When a young trainee announces visitors, Shirley asks, "What color are the visitors?" The girl replies, "Blue. Like you." The visitors are from the machine shop, led by Peter, who replaces their usual black jumpsuits with blue ones. Peter informs Knox, the staircase is buzzing with footsteps. They discuss rumors spreading among the carriers and the need for a less conspicuous approach. Knox says, "Well, the power outages have probably already started. All that's left is for us to climb quickly." Peter says, "Our voice must be heard. That means we should make noise." They prepare for the ascent, arming themselves with rifles and improvised weapons. Knox reflects on the instinct to create tools of pain. Addressing his followers, he refrains from making a speech, feeling fear due to the situation. Instead, Knox says, "Follow me." They start the climb, passing by suppliers who complain about the power outage. Knox considers the gravity of their actions, saying, "If rifles are made, who can stop the war?" Then he realizes that he and his group have gone beyond the point of no return. As they ascend, Knox grapples with the past, wondering if he's become the kind of person he once despised. He wonders, what if people felt the same during the last skirmish? Chapter 50. In a bunker filled with forgotten knowledge, Juliet discovers a vast archive of books and data, hinting at a world beyond their enclosed existence. Solo, her companion, reveals these aren't meant for typical reading but are backups of everything known. He shows Juliet maps depicting the world outside, a network of bunkers connected in a way she never imagined. They discuss the possibility of communicating with other bunkers via old communication lines. Solo explains he had connected to Bunker 1 in the past. Juliet, driven by a need to reveal the truth to her own bunker and others, presses Solo to teach her how to use these communication lines, hoping to expose the secrets kept by those in power. Chapter 51. In the claustrophobic confines of a bunker's conference room, Lucas, a technician, nervously awaits an unknown threat. The room is tense, filled with makeshift barricades and the lingering scent of gunpowder from a hastily shattered window. Anxious and ill-prepared, Lucas clutches his rifle, his mind racing with fragmented memories of a rushed briefing. Meanwhile, deep below, Knox leads a determined group upwards, navigating through levels populated by oblivious workers. Their mission is shrouded in secrecy, their path fraught with potential delays and suspicions. As tensions escalate, a confrontation with farmers over power lines highlights the delicate balance between cooperation and suspicion. Above, Lucas's agonizing weight explodes into brutal violence. The doors are blown open, and attackers surge in, unleashing chaos and carnage. Amidst the deafening gunfire and exploding grenades, Lucas is forced to confront the horrifying reality of war. A small old woman with a bomb in her hand becomes his target. Lucas fires, and the bomb explodes. Overwhelmed by fear and adrenaline, he fights back, emptying magazines into the relentless wave of attackers, his tears mingling with the acrid taste of gunpowder and the metallic tang of blood. Chapter 52. Bernard wakes up amidst chaos after an explosion. Peter Billings frantically tries to get his attention, reporting casualties and injuries. Bernard, disoriented and bleeding, learns that Sims led a group towards the stairs, facing heavy resistance. Ignoring his own injuries, Bernard directs Lucas to take him to the server room, realizing the attack is part of a larger plan. He reveals to Lucas that he will have to stay below as things are escalating quickly. Inside, a ringing alarm signals danger. Ignoring Lucas's warnings, Bernard connects to a server and receives a call from someone in the dead bunker. A voice reveals themselves as someone Bernard exiled to die. "You sent me away to die, and now I'm coming for you." It's someone seeking revenge. Chapter 53. Mark stumbles down a blood-soaked staircase, haunted by the echoes of an explosion that took his hearing, his friends, and his hope. He clutches his rifle, each step a desperate attempt to escape the relentless enemy pursuing them floor by floor. The memory of Knox, his boss and friend, and the horrifying image of a supply woman detonating a bomb flash through his mind. His only thought is to find his wife, Shirley. He navigates the chaotic scene, dodging bullets and passing wounded comrades. "Shirley!" he shouts, his voice lost in the ringing in his ears. He desperately seeks any sign of her, his pleas met with fearful glances and slammed doors. Reaching the 57th floor, where he last saw her, he pounds on a door, begging to be let in. "My wife, where is she?" But the door remains shut. Forced to move on, he joins a group of survivors, only to witness a wounded man detonate a grenade, sacrificing himself to slow their pursuers. The explosion rocks the stairwell, but Mark, driven by desperation, continues his descent into the heart of the bunker, determined to find Shirley amidst the madness. Chapter 54. After a devastating explosion and heavy losses, Mark seeks refuge with his fellow survivors, desperately searching for his wife, Shirley. He finds her in the supply section, amidst rising tension and news of more casualties, including Knox and McLean. Reunited, Shirley tends to his wounds, but they find themselves unwelcome as mechanics retreat further down, fearing the spread of injury. A barricade is being constructed at the mechanical level, but the scene is chaotic, with people clamoring to get through a small opening. Gunfire erupts, and Mark heroically creates a distraction, fighting off attackers on the stairs above. Though wounded, he buys time for Shirley to escape through the barrier, but is fatally shot. In his final moments, he sees Shirley pulled to safety, before succumbing to his injuries. Chapter 55. Walker lies in bed, the sounds of war echoing around him. Gunfire and explosions are the new normal. He curls up, waiting for the sounds to stop, but the silence is worse, filled with dread. Shirley brings him breakfast, but he barely touches it. The corridor, once quiet, is now a battlefield. Jenkins, a young man burdened by responsibility, bursts in, demanding the radio be fixed. "This radio needs to work," Walker explains. He's been working on it all night, but can't receive any signals. Jenkins is desperate for information, feeling lost without the radio. Walker tinkers with the radio, thinking of his lost apprentice, Scotty. He's consumed by regret, believing he caused all the bloodshed. It wasn't worth it, he thinks, as he continues to work, his hands trembling, tempted by the thought of joining his friends in death. Chapter 56. In the dilapidated Bunker 17, Juliet and Solo struggle to restore water flow. After weeks of effort, they manage to reclaim only one step from the floodwaters. Juliet pricks her finger on a wire, a small injury in the face of the bunker's decay. They celebrate their small victory, but Juliet calculates that with 3 more pumps, it will still take 2 years to fully drain the mechanical level. Solo, ever optimistic, rejoices at this seemingly long time frame. Juliet is horrified. She is not sure if she can last for another 2 years in this forsaken place. Juliet starts to feel the loneliness and isolation creeping in. Faced with the grim reality, Juliet contemplates even more desperate measures. But she keeps that thought to herself. Solo, oblivious, drinks the oil-slicked water in celebration. Juliet decides she won't wait 2 years. They head back up, with plans to gather supplies. But first, Juliet wants to make a call, much to Solo's dismay. She knows she is spending too much time listening to signals, perhaps going mad, but it's the only thing keeping her from truly losing it in the desolate bunker. Chapter 57. In a hidden server room, Lucas, a technician, is interrupted from reading an old book when the lights flash red, signaling someone's presence upstairs. Using a secret camera system, he discovers it's Bernard, his boss, bringing him a special meal of pork ribs, hinting at a resistance encountered at the bazaar. While Lucas enjoys the meal, they discuss the ongoing conflict and the potential threat of the mechanics cutting off power. Bernard mentions Lucas's upcoming promotion, contingent on his study of the rules and loyalty to the bunker. Suddenly, a frantic alarm from Server 17 interrupts them. Bernard, visibly agitated, tasks Lucas with creating a custom alert system. After Bernard leaves, forbidding Lucas from answering calls through Server 17, Lucas, defying his orders, connects to the server, eagerly awaiting the conversation. Chapter 58. Walker tinkers with an antenna, trying to catch radio waves. Despite his homemade amplifier and young apprentice Scotty's help, the signal is weak. They debate whether their underground location is the problem, or a mysterious circuit board labeled 18 is blocking the signal. Suddenly, Shirley barges in, concerned about Walker's lack of eating. While forcing him to eat, she unknowingly helps him fine-tune the radio, finally picking up a clear signal, a transmission mentioning a sheriff's deputy Roberts. Walker is confused and disturbed by the transmission mentioning people from the outside. Chapter 59. Juliet, unlike Solo, carefully manages the lab's power, haunted by the fear of its potential end. Surrounded by eerie cleaner suits, she sorts supplies, driven by the memory of past horrors and violence in the silo. She is making modifications to the cleaner suits to allow her to breathe underwater in the lower levels of the silo. She plans to find pumps to drain the water that has flooded the lower levels of the silo. Seeking solace in her work, she prepares a suit for underwater exploration, driven by a desire to solve problems and understand the silo's secrets. Solo enters with freshly baked bread, proud of his newfound culinary skills. Juliet unveils her plan to use the modified suits to reach the flooded lower levels and activate the pumps, promising Solo a vital role in the operation. "You'll be minding the compressor. Don't worry, you won't be bored." Chapter 60. Lucas, overwhelmed by his solitary confinement on level 35, spends his days reading about the world's chaos and violence. Haunted by memories and struggling with his identity, he feels trapped, both physically and mentally. Peter, seemingly mocking and suspicious, visits him. Juliet calls Lucas, their conversation heavy with shared burdens and differing views on the unfolding events. She reminds him, to sto my delayum, operdeliat to, kato my yesum, what we do defines who we are. Lucas is left tormented, questioning his actions and his place in this fractured world, haunted by the image of the small woman he shot. Chapter 61. In a tense bunker, Carl is late delivering a crucial folder, escalating tensions with a man named. 2 days have passed. Walker and Shirley uncover other bunker signals, using a homemade device. Walker is intrigued by the technical challenge, while Shirley is disturbed by the implications of others existing. 11, not counting us, Walker notes. Shirley worried about the cleaning mentioned in the radio transmissions. Suddenly, an explosion rocks their bunker. They broke through. Dazed and injured, Walker is helped by Jenkins. "My lenses," he stammers. As chaos erupts, Jenkins orders an evacuation. Shirley grabs components of the radio they've been working on. Amidst gunfire, they desperately gather essential items, Walker realizing their safe haven is lost. Harper shouts, "We have to leave." They flee into the unknown. Chapter 62. Wearing the cleaner suit triggered unexpected panic in Juliet. Solo helped her with the gear, including a knife she considered her talisman. She checked the tools, screwdrivers, a wrench, and cutters, while Solo lowered a rope with a wrench attached into the green-lit water. As she descended the stairs into the water, she remembered why she was doing it and felt a strange sense of relief. She was going to fix the pumps. Juliet looked at her reflection and wondered if Lucas would try to talk her out of it. Was he her lifeline? Or just a beacon in the fog? Solo fitted the helmet and turned on the air and the radio. After Solo added weights and the power cable, Juliet turned and leaned on the railing, then moved her head. After Solo moved her feet with weights across the railing, Juliet plunged into the water. Inside her helmet, Juliet loosened her grip and began her long descent. Chapter 63. Lucas sits at a wooden table, dwarfed by a massive book of rules, feeling out of place among the opulent surroundings. He's feigning interest in the book, more drawn to the forbidden legacy books locked away in metal boxes. Bernard, the IT head and acting mayor, monitors him while managing the armed squad below. Lucas, overwhelmed by the rules' focus on control and fear, finally asks Bernard about the origins of their world and the people who built the bunkers. Bernard is hesitant, emphasizing the importance of mastering the rules to secure their future. Lucas presses, wondering if those who built the bunkers knew what was coming. Bernard confirms they did, revealing this knowledge exists but isn't in the legacy books. He explains the difference: the legacy is their hope and achievements, while the past is the unchangeable bad that led them there. Lucas understands, they can't change the past, but they can shape the future. The rules are their map to navigate from the mistakes of the past towards a hopeful future, and that's what they can prevent and fix. Bernard is impressed, hinting Lucas is almost ready. Chapter 64. Descending into the mechanical level, Juliet is captivated by the silence and the strange beauty of the green water. Bubbles float upwards like liquid silver, and the distorted view through her helmet makes her feel like the staircase is rising towards the clouds. But the illusion breaks when she looks up and remembers the tons of water above. She continues down, repeating to herself that she can always cut the weights and float to the surface if panic sets in. Slower! Solo's voice booms through the radio, startling her. She imagines him tangled in the hoses and wires above. Juliet continues, passing the flooded 139th level, where she catches a glimpse of a bloated face in the darkness. Reaching the bottom, she wades through the water towards the mechanical department, a place both alien and familiar. She adjusts to the awkward underwater movement, feeling like she's pushing a bubble. Looking back, the rope seems impossibly thin in the flooded stairwell. She reminds herself that she doesn't have to do this, that she could wait for the water to be pumped out, but the thought of her friend's suffering pushes her forward. She imagines repairing a burrowing machine and digging a tunnel to the 18th bunker, freeing her comrades. Reaching the turnstile, she struggles to climb over it, her movements clumsy and exhausting. Finally through, she moves down the main corridor, passing the dining hall and a body tangled in the pipes. She heads down the steps to the mechanical level, the only light coming from her helmet lamp. After 6 flights, the hose and wire become difficult to pull. Stopping to adjust them, she notices bubbles escaping from a joint, but dismisses it. Reaching the pool where the pump is located, she sees the water is surprisingly clean. She connects the power cable to the pump, but then she realizes the air supply has stopped. "Solo, can you hear me? What's happening?" She gets no response. Time is running out as she struggles to connect the final wire, her thoughts becoming clouded. The radio crackles to life, and she thinks she hears her name, but then silence. Juliet watches as the last of the air bubbles escape her helmet. Chapter 65. As chaos erupts above, Walker and Shirley descend through a besieged bunker, clutching vital radio components. Mechanics reinforce the narrow passages against the encroaching threat. Shirley leads the way, antenna in tow, while Walker navigates the crowded stairwell, dodging sparks and debris. They reach the generator room, a hub of activity managed by Jenkins, who initially dismisses their radio project. Despite the skepticism, they gain access to the control room, a sanctuary filled with gauges and switches. With fuel reserves confirmed, they focus on assembling the radio. Walker rigs up the antenna, and Shirley procures headphones, recalling the voices they once carried. They power up the device, and as Shirley adjusts the frequency, a faint voice crackles through. "Solo? This is Juliet. Do you read me? What's happening?" Overwhelmed, Shirley drops the dial, tears streaming down Walker's face as hope flickers in the heart of the bunker. Their desperation is palpable. Their curiosity is overcoming their fear. Chapter 66. In a desperate fight for survival, Juliet finds herself in the abyss of the mechanical department, deep underwater. Her air compressor fails, leaving her with dwindling air supply. "Something happened to the compressor," she whispers, frantically trying to fix it. Every breath becomes a precious commodity. She struggles to detach her leg weights, a task made impossible by the bulky suit. "I'm running out of air," she cries out and remembers the knife in her pocket. In pitch-black darkness, illuminated only by her helmet's flashlight, she slices through the Velcro, freeing herself. But the sudden buoyancy sends her spiraling, her helmet hitting the pipes above, plunging her into complete darkness. "This is how I'm going to die," she thinks in desperation. She remembered the air hose. She pulls herself along the air hose, until she reaches a point when the hose feels taut, leading outwards. She screams in joy. She continues pulling herself through the murky water, wondering how much longer she can hold on before her final breath. Chapter 67. Lucas, with his mother at his side, learns about his upcoming promotion in the server room. Amidst the backdrop of an impending election and rumors of rebellion, their conversation is laced with anxiety. She worries about his well-being, especially concerning food rations, while he assures her of his safety and influence in the bunker. Their tender moment is cut short by Bernard and Sheriff Billings, signaling Lucas's return to duty. Later, Lucas undergoes a crucial procedure, connecting to a mysterious voice through a server. During a tense exchange, Lucas is questioned about his loyalty and understanding of their mission. He's probed on his role, the values he protects, and past decisions. Finally, he's appointed to a higher position within the bunker's hierarchy in Operation 50 World Order, and he dares to ask about the origins of their situation, receiving cryptic answers and a warning to focus on the present. Chapter 68. In the control room, Shirley and Walker are stunned to hear Juliet's voice over the radio, years after her supposed death. Walker believes Juliet is alive and with others, referring to past conversations about a cleanup. Shirley, initially skeptical, imagines Juliet alive instead of decaying beyond the hill. They realize they need a transmitter to talk to her. Shirley rushes to the miner's storage to find one, facing a dangerous situation as Jenkins plans to blow up the stairs to stop approaching enemies. She manages to grab transmitters and dynamite just as the explosion occurs, determined to get back to Walker and connect with Juliet. Chapter 69. In a desperate struggle for survival, Juliet navigates a flooded tunnel, battling darkness and dwindling oxygen. She collides with obstacles, desperately searching for a guide. Finally finding the hose, Juliet fought for every inch, pulling herself up the stairs to the surface. However, her combison was running out of oxygen. She manages to find her way to the main corridor and surfaces to the flooded stairwell. Overcome by the need to breathe, she fights the urge to remove her helmet, remembering her purpose. Juliet uses a knife to detach her helmet and, guided by the hose, reaches a pocket of air beneath the submerged staircase. Finding pockets of breathable air under the stairs, she makes her way back to the main platform where Solo is lying injured. She begs for his help, only for him to reveal, with his last breath, that his name isn't Solo, but Jimmy. Chapter 70. In a tense exchange, Lucas questions Bernard about the cataclysm that wiped out the world and the purpose of their underground existence. Lucas struggles to comprehend how anyone could orchestrate such a massive annihilation. Bernard reveals that curiosity can be dangerous and that the secrets they guard are crucial to prevent another disaster. He explains that the world was destroyed by a powerful country seeking to preserve its way of life, and now they are trapped in a system designed to maintain a homogeneous population. Bernard urges Lucas to forget the past and focus on their duty to protect the remaining bunkers, even if it means making difficult choices. He assures Lucas that they are not responsible for the actions of those who came before them, but their survival depends on upholding the rules of this twisted game. As Bernard departs, Lucas contemplates the gravity of their situation, wondering who is truly in control and whether they, too, have become pawns in a larger, more sinister game. Chapter 71. Shirley, battered and bruised, stumbles into the control room after a firefight, finding Courtney and Walker huddled inside. They're stunned by her survival. Meanwhile, a team is redirecting exhaust into the IT department's cooling system as a counterattack. Walker manages to get a response over the radio, not from Jules, but a chilling voice declaring, "We are nowhere. You will never find us. Stay away. And your friend is dead. We killed him." Chapter 72. In a flooded, freezing lower level, Juliet fights for survival after an attack leaves Solo unconscious. She cuts herself out of her suit, battling hypothermia, and desperately tries to warm herself by igniting a fuel-soaked compressor. Remembering Solo, she finds a faint pulse and frantically tries to revive him. He stirs, disoriented and injured, remembering only a single attacker. Juliet reassures him, washes his wound, and insists they must return to the upper levels for warmth and safety. He insists that he's not crazy, the things he's seen and the lights, it wasn't him. Chapter 73. Lucas, struggling to focus on his studies amidst the sounds of distant battles, fixates on a map of the bunkers, a mirror of the server room above. He anxiously awaits news from Juliet, who's in the midst of a fierce battle. Haunted by the thought of marking another bunker lost with a red cross, he feels powerless to stop the violence. Longing to connect, he imagines reaching out to the other bunkers, introducing himself, and pleading for kindness. He seeks solace in old papers, finding Juliet's generator manual and a play where he discovers a note penned by Juliet, referencing someone named George. Consumed by jealousy, Lucas delves into the bunker's database, uncovering the identity of this George, a deceased mechanic who worked with Jules, who died 3 years ago in an accident. He realizes the affair with the dead mechanic is what inspired her to pursue the sheriff position. Driven by a need to understand Juliet, Lucas decides to investigate George's death, finding a dark relief from his anxiety and killing time until she finally calls. Chapter 74. Shivering, Juliet helps Solo up, who's barely standing after an attack. They're in a cold, damp environment, reeking of fuel. Juliet retrieves her knife, a symbol of survival. They start climbing the seemingly endless staircase of the bunker, aiming for the assistant sheriff's quarters, a 10-story climb. Solo, weak and disoriented, struggles. Juliet wonders how many others are lurking, but Solo insists everyone else is dead. They rest briefly, but Juliet's cold and hunger push them on. Solo is fading, mumbling about wanting water. They reach the lower farms, and Juliet goes ahead to activate the lights, promising water and rest. In the dark, she finds the control room and manages to turn on the lights, revealing a farm tended by someone else. She hears noises, a metallic scraping, and discovers a hidden room where children huddle. A teenage boy, Rickson, attacks her, but she fends him off. These children were born in the bunker, descendants of survivors. The children are scared and filthy. One of the teenagers is holding a baby. Juliet wants to help and decides to take them back to her bunker. As she gathers their things, she is called over the radio by Walker. She hears a voice from the outside world. Chapter 75. In a desperate attempt to understand the unfolding chaos, Courtney, Walker, and Shirley huddle in the control room, their radio their only lifeline. Walker manages to connect with Juliet, a voice from the unknown, revealing news of a battle and other survivors. Juliet's warnings about a dangerous plan to redirect the generator's exhaust into the IT cooling pipes, echoing with urgency, "You must stop them." Shirley, driven by Juliet's desperate plea to end the fighting, witnesses the grim reality of the ongoing battle through the control room window. As the sounds of gunfire draw closer, Juliet's final, heartbreaking message resonates: "It must not continue because of me. Please, stop." Chapter 76. In a server room filled with the scent of dust and old technology, Lucas, an IT engineer, is confronted by Bernard, his boss. Lucas, perched precariously on a trash can, tries to subtly investigate a smoky smell, a flimsy excuse to be near a ventilation grate. Bernard arrives, delivering letters from Lucas's mother, a small comfort in this isolated environment. Their conversation takes a dark turn as they discuss the transfer of farmers and a colleague's potential promotion. Lucas, haunted by something he discovered on Server 18, attempts to casually inquire about a closed case file, the Wilkins case. Bernard's reaction is immediate and chilling, revealing that George Wilkins was a dangerous man spreading rebellious ideas. Bernard confesses that Wilkins was murdered to prevent the spread of these ideas, framing it as a necessary act to maintain order within the bunker. He chillingly states, "Some people are like viruses. If you don't want an epidemic, you need to vaccinate the bunker. Get rid of those people." Lucas is shaken, realizing the true extent of the control and the ruthlessness employed to maintain it. He thinks of Julieta, a woman who sparked dangerous dreams within him. Finally, Lucas asks if Bernard was the one who killed George Wilkins. In response, Bernard is disgusted by the question and asks if Lucas wants out of the job. The scene ends with Lucas, desperate and trapped, begging Bernard to let him leave, unknowingly sealing his fate as Bernard somberly contacts Sheriff Billings. Chapter 77. Juliet, leading orphans and Solo up the bunker's endless stairs, desperately tries to reach Walker and Shirley on the radio, but only hears static. Despite the suffering survivors from Bunker 17, they push onward, driven by Juliet's need to contact Lucas and her haunting realization that she can't save her friends or the bunker. Solo weakens, and Juliet leaves the group in his care, determined to return to Solo's old living quarters where she believes there's a hidden radio to contact Walker. Battling exhaustion, she reaches the server room, breaks into the steel cage, and finally gets to the radio. "Walker?" she cries. But instead of her friends, she hears Bernard. He reveals Lucas betrayed him, and worse, he's sending Lucas on the next cleaning, personally guaranteeing he won't survive. Juliet, devastated, can only utter, "You will burn in hell." Chapter 78. As Lucas was escorted to his death, children raced past, their laughter a stark contrast to his somber mood. The sheriff, Peter, cautioned them, but their youthful exuberance was untamed. Lucas contemplated the tempting escape of jumping over the railing, a self-chosen death he'd often pondered in dark moments. Peter's grip prevented his decision. The endless spiral of the staircase became a metaphor for life in the bunker, a DNA strand at its core. Each weld on the railing told a story of its creator, and each layer of paint reflected time and the desperate desire to be remembered. Along the way they encountered other residents, their faces a mix of curiosity and judgment. Lucas felt like a virus, his words potentially lethal. He understood Juliet's fate, they were alike, but he wasn't meant to survive. Then, Juliet's voice crackled over Peter's radio, a desperate plea amid a heated debate. The forbidden words spoken ignited doubt in Peter, but Lucas, for a moment, felt the magnetic pull of the railing, a final, liberating leap. He imagined the jump, but the moment passed, and the decision hung in the air. Men re-evaluated the situation. And changed their minds. Chapter 79. Juliet wakes up disoriented in Solo's room. He tells her they've arrived and strangely seems more lively than usual, but Juliet feels like she's dying. It's Friday night, and she remembers her disturbing dreams about Lucas and her friends facing a mass execution in their prison cells. She realizes she has to act fast. Solo helps her up, and they head to the lab to prepare a modified suit. She instructs him on using the specific thermal tape, stressing its importance. As they work, she recalls the horrors awaiting Lucas and knows she must intervene. She tells Solo, now calling himself Jimmy, that she's going to try and save Lucas, not knowing if she will return, but Jimmy understands. She says that saving her friend could influence the undecided to join their side and that weapons and battles lose their meaning when there is support. Before leaving, Jimmy helped her put on the suit. She's essentially walking into her own execution, a fate Bernard intended for her weeks ago. "I'm not going to be alone anymore," Jimmy says with a sad smile. Chapter 80. Juliet, after a perilous journey, reaches the outside world, a desolate landscape with remnants of the dead. She heads towards her old bunker, encountering fellow cleaners who evoke a deep sense of sorrow within her. Reaching a vantage point, she sees the sprawling landscape dotted with similar bunkers, realizing the scale of the world is far beyond her knowledge and imagining lives of others unaware of the truth. Driven by a newfound sense of purpose and the memory of Lucas, she decides to return. When she makes it back to the bunker, a cleansing fire erupts. In the chamber she finds Lucas. She sacrifices herself to save him, covering him with an insulation blanket. But, in his agony, Lucas throws off the blanket, exposing himself to the flames. Juliet pulls the blanket back over her head, but she is burned and certain that Lucas is dead, until she discovers that he has been replaced by an imposter. Relief and anger war within her. Despite her burns, she survived. Chapter 81. Juliet's consciousness flickers after being severely burned in the gate. Peter Billings rescues her from the melting helmet. She wakes up in the infirmary on level 33, with Lucas by her side, overwhelmed with emotion. While recovering, Juliet is haunted by nightmares and grief over Knox's death and the impossibility of seeing Shirley. Peter visits often, and Juliet expresses her gratitude, as he was the one who saved her. Lucas recounts the events. Peter risked everything to listen to their plea, defying Bernard's orders, and ultimately choosing to be a good person rather than a mere enforcer of the law. On the staircase, Lucas told Peter that Bernard killed a man and that he had proof, and that fate brought them together. It will be clear who is who based on their future actions. Peter knew the guards are hundreds of floors away and that up top, there's only one pistol and one law, his law. Chapter 82. Juliet, recovering from burns, is offered the position of leadership within the silo, a role she initially scoffs at. Lucas and Peter try to persuade her, emphasizing the power vacuum and her potential to prevent collapse. Juliet agrees, but only on the condition of complete transparency and truth, challenging the established system of lies and fear. After Peter leaves, Lucas confesses his hidden feelings and love for Juliet, sharing a passionate kiss, before Juliet heads towards the long staircase. Juliet, ready to climb the never-ending staircase, turns to Lucas and shares that she will visit her father first, before meeting her friends. Chapter 83. Eliza, a young girl, excitedly counts the steps as she ascends a staircase, her breath visible in the cold air. Reaching the top, she stumbles but quickly recovers, her gap-toothed smile reassuring Mr. Solo that she's all right. She announces that the water is receding. Solo, relieved, assures her everything will be fine, recalling a past incident marked by a rust-colored bloodstain. He reaches for his radio, eager to share the good news with Juliet, confident that things are finally looking up. And that's the full breakdown of Wool by Hugh Howey, a story of hope, fear, and the cost of truth in a world built on lies. If you enjoyed this summary, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more book breakdowns. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next story.